Hello there, my music lovers. I'm George from Audiophile Heaven, and today we're having a look at iBasso Audio IT07. This is the EM you've been waiting for, my boys. This is one EM, $900, 7 drivers in each EM, and made by iBasso, the company. This company, iBasso. So let's get into the IT07 and see what it is all about. IT07 took the world by surprise. iBasso is impressing us still. They are still releasing so many awesome things. And the IT07 is special. This is the EM you've been waiting for your entire life. This is nothing like the older iBasso models. This is new. This is exactly what they have been intending to release for such a long time. The unboxing is exquisite. For $900, you are getting an actual flagship unboxing. This is the type of package I want to see with my flagship EMs. That cardboard package is just a presentation. Look at the quality of this. This is covered in pleather or even actually leather. This is how an EM should look like when unboxed. This is how the case opens, and look at this. This is the type of carrying case that iBasso packages their EMs with. It is a fully metallic carrying case, better than what HiFi uses for their Array 2000, and it is in line with what Unique Melody typically uses for their flagships. iBasso is learning. iBasso is there in the shadows, and they are learning. They are ready to combat the other audio companies. This is the carrying case of the IT07, 7 drivers per each EM. I'm actually quite surprised because I've listened to them before knowing what is inside. I have taken my notes about the sound, and only now I'm doing the video itself because I wanted to first know how it sounds, to describe the sound to you, then to present the technology inside. And I was surprised by the technology, and I'll explain in a second just why. But first, let's get on with the unboxing. IT07 comes with the balanced cable in the 2.5mm format, but they come with an adapter to the 3.5mm single-ended format. Basically, they want you to use them at the best you have available to you. And that is a huge point because you typically have your audio sources and you have both single-ended and balanced out. And this has actually enabled me to quickly test how the DX300 sounds like in balanced and in single-ended. And I was surprised, I'll tell you that. It sounds better in balanced, and it sounds so good that I ain't going to use something else for a while. I'm actually waiting for something that will surpass the DX300, and I'm excited to see if anything will surpass it in 2021. The year just started and iBasso already released an awesome DAP on the market. Given the design of the IT07, I actually noticed one thing. They have 4 channels for audio, they have 7 drivers, but they have those drivers separated in 4 ways. There is a very complex crossover embedded in the IT07, and the biggest surprise was the comfort. They are actually very comfortable. iBasso had older EMs which had a bit of driver flex, and I noted that in my review of the IT04, and every single EM that has driver flex, I will mention it. I will be there for you. I will be there to tell you what it has and what it doesn't. And this one does not have driver flex anymore. There is no microphoning noise coming from the cable, and the comfort is actually pretty good. It is a good comfort. It is above okay, but still below perfect. And the reason is that it is a bit large. The IT07 is not the smallest of EMs out there, and if you have smaller ears, especially this part here, you are going to have a few issues with the comfort. They are best for medium and large ears. The design is made in such a way that you can accommodate them to insert either in shallow insertion or in deeper insertion, because beneath the rubber tip you actually find this nozzle, which is pretty long, and you can actually move the rubber tip along the nozzle so that you can select your preferred insertion. The further away it is from your ear, so the closer the rubber tip is to the margin of the nozzle or of the metallic bore, you are going to hear a larger soundstage, more instrument separation, and more separation between the layers of instruments. The closer it is, the more focused the sound is going to be like. You are going to get an intimate presentation, and you are going to hear music closer to you. I prefer them further away so that I have a larger soundstage, so that I can listen to some metal, to some rock, to hear the crowds in the back, to hear all of the instruments. I prefer that type of presentation. I prefer a wider soundstage, that's for sure. The cable of the IT07 is a flagship cable. Finally, we have a flagship that has a flagship cable. For me, I'm just reviewing the IT07 after I just reviewed the Dorado 2020. The Dorado 2020 had a very thin looking cable. It did not inspire comfort and it did not inspire trust. By comparison, the Dorado 2020 inspires comfort, inspires trust. This is what a flagship cable should look like. The cable is ended in an MM6 connector at the EM level, so the EMs can turn freely in it. It is not the tightest of connectors and it can be easily replaced with something else if you desire to. I've tested compatibility and I've replaced the cable with a Dunu Hulk, and to be honest and to be perfectly frank with you, I noticed not a major improvement from Dunu Hulk, so the default cable is excellent in quality. The technology inside dictates the sound a bit. We have a very complex crossover, we have a large number of drivers, and we have 6 balanced armatures and 1 dynamic driver. The dynamic driver relies on the Tesla Flux technology. The sound is detailed, but at the same time it has a very meaty type of mid-range, it has a very beautiful impact, and it has a beautiful musicality. It is so natural. It is more meaty or more substantial than I typically listen to because it presents music with force, it presents music with soul, it has bone, it has meat, it is ready to attack, it is ready to be there. This is how I would describe the sound of the IT07. It is extremely powerful, it is a very powerful sounding EM. The main mid-range is slightly recessed compared to the bass body and the upper mid-range and the treble. The sub-bass is not necessarily the most enhanced part of the sound, but the main bass. The bass is actually beautifully designed. It reminds me a bit of the iBasso CR2 headphones, and it tends to be in the same way, a bit enhanced but also natural in speed. It is tight, it is quick, but it has good amount of substance. Most EMs that are analytical and which have a lot of detail tend to lose a bit of this meat. They try to be as quick as possible, but in the process they lose the impact, they lose the force, they tend to lose all of that beauty that we music lovers want to listen to. IT07 makes no sacrifice. They wanted to be perfect. So instead of going for the most detailed type of sound, they decided to go for natural. The treble is my favorite type of treble. I personally prefer a slightly splashy treble because I don't enjoy harshness and I don't enjoy grain. I prefer a sound that is a bit splashy to avoid grain, so I prefer a slightly wet tuning to the sonic signature. And this is exactly what IT07 does for us. It is slightly wet, it is slightly splashy, it has excellent extension, even up to the highest octaves. I'm noticing things in treble that I'm not typically noticing in the $1,000 price range. And it has a lot of air. The soundstage is actually average in size, it is not the widest out there, but it is not intimate either. It has excellent overall instrument separation and layering, and the thing that actually surprised me was the imaging. The stereo imaging was beautiful. I can notice many guitars playing at once. It is very good at separating guitars, so instruments that play in pretty much the same sonic registers can be separated very precisely by the IT07. It is not analytical by nature, it doesn't have a grainy sound, it has a beautiful sound, it has an explosive sound, it has an engaging sound, it has life in it, and I love having that life with me. I would typically listen to something like Sabaton with the IT07 or AC/DC or something that I want to sound meaty, that I want to sound powerful. By comparison, the Dorado 2020 is more laid back and smoother. The IT07 is even more forward, it is an aggressive type of EM and I like it. I like this type of sound very much for metal, for Amon Amarth, for Massacre, for Obscurcis Romancia. It really brings life to the music, because usually when I recommend an EM that is made for metal, it tends to be slightly thinner in the mid-range. iBasso IT07 is not thin, it is not very thick either, but it has a good amount of meat on those bones. If you are a fan of tuning, you can actually fine-tune the sound, and I'm going to go more in depth with that in the full written review, because it comes with acoustic filters and I really haven't tested all of them quite yet, because I wanted to give you my impressions about the bassline sound. How does it sound in its default configuration? It sounds amazing. I was just there on my couch listening to it and I was like, whoa, they finally did it. They finally have an EM that I can consider complete, that I can consider perfect. And that is the point. I find the overall tuning perfect. It is both a bit meaty, also a bit splashy, also has excellent separation, it has a very nice amount of treble sparkle, it has a nice amount of bass, it doesn't roll off in the bass. That Tesla dynamic driver really does it. It is beautiful. I really like the fact that iBasso insists on using those drivers. As far as the overall tuning goes, they are much closer in tuning to iBasso's entry-level series like the IT00, IT01, IT01S than they are to the IT04. The IT04 was ethereal. The IEM05 was also kinda ethereal. They don't have a lot of body, they don't have a lot of grain either, but they are focused on the soundstage, on creating a scene for you. They create beautiful sounds, but they aren't quite as precise. The IT07 is not like that. It is an upgrade for those who like precision, for those who like now, for those who like this type of of impact. The IT07 is not made for those who are looking for an ethereal presentation. They are very precise, very direct, very aggressive, very much into attacking you. And this is how music should be. They are very dynamic. Despite having such a high number of drivers, the IT07 manages to be quite coherent. I couldn't notice any type of incoherency, although I did notice that the bass is a bit slower than the main mid-range body and the treble. And that is noticeable with guitars. For example, bass guitars tend to have a slightly slower decay than the main guitars, and the treble tends to be a bit faster even, but that wet character tends to fix it. So the treble never feels grainy, it doesn't feel fatiguing, it doesn't feel sibilant, and it doesn't feel harsh. The mid-range is very fluid, it is very musical, it flows with you, it dances with you. The mid-range is just beautiful. The passing between the bass and the mid-range is the area where you will notice the fact that the Tesla dynamic driver is quick, but the balanced armatures are still a bit quicker, and you can notice that passing between them. I think that it works very well if you are used to live concerts, because in a live concert typically the bass guitars are much slower in decay because the bass cabinets are larger, they tend to create a more boomy type of sound, while the main guitars have smaller cabinets which are much faster and much more colorful in presentation. And I can notice that with the IT07. They are still excellent when it comes to presenting multiple bass lines, multiple bass guitars, multiple bass notes. They don't miss those bass lines. They are beautiful. They are just presenting it a bit bigger, a bit larger. You hear music much closer to a concert than you hear it in the studio. In the studio, typically we have a thinner type of presentation with a more precise type of placing, but at the same time we kind of miss that body that we get in a live concert. If you've ever been in the first row at a rock concert, you'll notice that even black metal bands tend to have big bass. They have to boom, they have to punch, and that is something that I noticed with the IT07. The IT07 has that. It has that bass, it has that impact, it has that depth. It has enough speed to present all of those. It is just excellent. I'm really excited for the IT07, and I hope you are also excited for reading the full written review about it. I hope you are excited for more videos from me, from Audiophile Heaven. I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoyed the content, if you want to see more awesome content from me. I hope you leave a like on this video if you liked it. I hope you have a lovely week in there, and we'll see each other really soon. Bye bye.